In this video, we're going to add the X and Y coordinates to program the cutter to go around this part profile as shown here. So first, let's review what we have. Here we put the tool into the spindle that we want to use. Here we position and turn it on, so we're positioned here. Then here we pick up the height offset, move to 100th thou above the part, and we turn the coolant on. So the cutter's here and 100th thou above this surface, our Z0 of our part. So next, we want to move our cutter to its depth of cut. We could do that in the rapid rate, but I prefer to do that at a feed rate, so I'm going to say G01. Now it is out here in air, so it can go fairly fast. The bottom of our part is 394, so I'm going to round that up to 400, and I'd like the cutter to be a little below the bottom. So I'm going to set the Z here to negative 0.425, so a little more than 25 thou past the bottom of the part. And then I'll program an F, which means move at the specified feed rate. And our feed rate, remember, is in inches per minute. So I'm going to put 25 or maybe even higher there and push enter. So now we've positioned our cutter, and here we've fed down to our depth of cut. Using the G01, which says move in a linear motion at the specified feed rate. So we're at the start position, and we need to go from here to position 1. Well, this is a clockwise arc. To cut a clockwise arc, we're going to program G02, and then we need to give it the X and Y coordinate at the end of the arc. So we're going to position 1 here. The X at the cutter center there, because we're programming the cutter center, is X, 1.772. Push space. The Y is negative, and remember, these spaces the machine could care less about. It just makes it easier for you and I to read. So our Y is negative 1.683. And the last thing we need on this line is the radius path to follow here. To get from here to here in a clockwise arc, it could take many radius paths. But we want to follow this radius of 0.2. So we're going to enter R 0.2 and push enter. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come here and I'm going to put my M30, so it'll be my second M30, but that's okay. I want to put an M30 here so I can simulate it and only see the code I've written so far, and it'll stop here. So I'm going to tell it to refresh the plot, and we don't see much. I'll just zoom to fit the geometry. And what we do see is here is our cutter, and we see that arcing on. But that is what we want. So then on our next line, we need to tell the cutter to go from 1 to 2. Well, when it goes from position 1 to 2, that's now a counterclockwise arc. So to program a counterclockwise arc, we're going to use G03. And again, we program the X and Y coordinates at the end of the arc. So the X end is 2.1565. The Y is negative 1.299. And then we need R, the path it follows. So we need to know what's this radius. Well, that radius is the part radius plus the cutter radius. So let's get the calculator up to make sure we don't mess up. So we'll clear this. So the part radius is 0.197 plus the cutter radius of 3/16. So that gives us a radius of 0.3845. So we'll enter 0.3845, and again, come over here and refresh the plot. I'm just going to move this window a bit here. And we have our arcing on, and we have our arcing around. There's no errors, so it's good. I'll push enter to add the next line. And I'll scroll down a bit. So now I want to feed the cutter from position 2 to 3, and that's a straight line. So I need to switch back to the G01 mode. My X coordinate does not change here, only the Y. So I would not reprogram the X because there's a chance I might type it in wrong and make a mistake. I would just program the new Y coordinate. So the Y coordinate at position 3 is negative the part radius. So I'll come back here and enter Y minus 0.197, enter. And again, we'll refresh the plot, and it looks good. We've fed up that wall. So we're now at position 3. So here again, we have another arc that's going counterclockwise. So we're going to enter G03 for a counterclockwise arc, and we'll program the X and Y values at the end of the arc. And the radius path to follow is the same radius we calculated here. So that's an R 0.3845. Again, I'll refresh the plot. Make sure there's no arrows. It looks good. Our last thing we need to do is arc off the cut. So this is now a clockwise arc. So we'll say G02. Program the X and Y coordinates at the end of it. And it has the same radius as our first arc of 0.2. So now I'll refresh the plot and it looks good. Next we have our end of tool code and we'll just play that through once. So everything looks good and now we've programmed our first profile, the finish cut, to clean up this side. In the next video we'll come back and change the code slightly.